Hello everyone, and welcome to Babylon Leather's official channel. Today, we'll be crafting this leather round bag. First, inspect all materials. If any issues arise, contact Babylon official support. If there are no issues, please start making. 1 shoulder strap piece. Thread and needles. Hardware pieces. And this tool. 1 bottom piece. 1 piece for the outer pocket. 1 piece for the inner pocket. 1 front piece. 1 back piece. 2 zipper tape materials for the outside. 1 zipper tape material for the inside. 1 piece for attaching the strap buckle. 1 lanyard piece. 1 tag piece. 2 strap buckle holders for the sides. 2 leather loops for holding the strap. 1 piece to attach the bag charm. Prepare all these materials as shown in the video. Find this material. Measure the thread to be 2 times the length of the sewn part, then cut it. Each time, you can measure a bit more thread to ensure that there is more than enough available. First, take 2 needles and set the remaining needles aside for later use. Thread the needles. Begin threading the needle by passing the thread through the needle eye. Then, pass the needle tip through the middle of the thread. Tighten it, and that completes the threading of the needle. Thread the other needle using the same method. Place the front piece of material face up. Start stitching from this hole, sewing through the first and second holes. Be careful not to sew the wrong holes. Pull both threads evenly so they are the same length. Pass the second needle through the second hole. Now the starting stitch is complete. Put on a finger protector to avoid hurting your fingers while pulling the thread. Continue sewing normally using the double needle stitching method. Tighten the thread with every stitch, keep the thread direction consistent, and avoid catching the thread. Since there are fewer holes here, stitch 1 extra pass for reinforcement. Always pull the thread vertically to avoid damaging the leather. Pay attention every time you sew. After sewing, secure the thread. Begin by sewing 1 additional stitch backward to reinforce. Bring both thread ends to the back side. Leave a 3 mm thread tail, cut it, and use a lighter to burn the end to secure the thread. Slow down to avoid blackening the thread end or burning the leather. Take this piece of material. Measure the thread to be 4 times the length of the sewn part and thread the needles. Start stitching from this hole, making sure not to start from the wrong hole. Continue sewing normally using the double needle stitching method. Follow the thread direction and maintain even tension to keep the stitches straight and neat. Sew all the way around and bring the threads to the back side. Leave a 3mm thread tail, cut it, and use a lighter to burn the end to secure the thread. Slow down to avoid blackening the thread end or burning the leather. Take these 3 materials. Measure the thread to be 2 times the length of the sewn part and thread the needles. Make sure both materials are face up. Insert the buckle through the matching hole. Align the holes as shown. Start stitching from any of the 3 holes. Pull both threads evenly to match their length. Next, have the first needle go through the second hole, then tighten the thread. Be careful not to catch the thread. After sewing, secure the thread. Begin by sewing 1 additional stitch backward to reinforce. Leave a 3mm thread tail, cut it, and use a lighter to burn the end to secure the thread. Slow down to avoid blackening the thread end or burning the leather. Now stitch the inner and outer pockets of the back panel. Arrange the materials as shown in the video. When stitching, do not sew through the pocket on the first hole. Start passing through the pocket from the second hole. Measure the thread to be 7 times the length of the sewn part, then thread the needles normally. Begin the first stitch by passing the first needle through this hole. Second needle through the first hole of the inner pocket material. Then from the bottom to the top through the back panel's first hole and the first hole of the outer pocket material. Pull both threads evenly to keep them the same length. Next, have the first needle go through the second hole, then tighten the thread. Be careful not to catch the thread. Pull the thread tight to finish the starting stitch. Align the holes and make a few stitches to secure the position before continuing. Take a spare needle and a short piece of thread. Thread the short piece of thread through the needle. Then find the matching hole and make 1 stitch. Then tie off the thread so the position stays secure. When you reach this point, just trim off this part. After sewing, secure the thread. Begin by sewing 1 additional stitch backward to reinforce. Bring both threads to the back. Then, thread both needles through the next hole, ensuring they pass through the gap between the two materials. Then finish the stitch using the same method. Take the 2 leather loops for holding the strap. Measure the thread to be 8 times the length of the sewn part, then thread the needles. Start stitching from the second hole, leaving the first hole for later. Keep the holes aligned and pull the thread tight with each stitch to keep the line straight. When you reach the second to last hole, fold the piece over as shown. After folding it in half, overlap 2 stitches like this. Once one leather loop is stitched, repeat the same method for the second leather loop. After stitching all holes, stitch 2 more stitches forward to reinforce. Bring both threads to the back side. Leave a 3mm thread tail, cut it, and use a lighter to burn the end to secure the thread. Slow down to avoid blackening the thread end or burning the leather. Check out the stitched result. Use the same method to stitch the second leather loop for holding the strap. Now check both 2 leather loops after finishing. Get these materials. Measure the thread to be 8 times the length of the sewn part, then thread the needles as usual. Find this position and pass the first needle through the hole. Pull both threads evenly so they are the same length. Next, have the first needle go through the second hole, then tighten the thread. Be careful not to catch the thread. Continue stitching forward as usual. When you reach this point, make sure to include the bag body as you stitch from the top to the bottom. Arrange the 2 pieces so their holes align. Start stitching through the line holes. Prepare the buckle, and this is the front side. This is the back side. Insert the buckle into the base from the inside out, then fold it over tightly. pass the inner needle through the hole, keeping the thread direction consistent and smooth. For the first few holes, you can pass through one material at a time to make it easier. Also, be cautious not to poke yourself or others. When you reach this point, stitch through the central hole as well. Only move one thread when stitching across the center. Leave the other thread in place. If there are no more holes on the back, backstitch one hole so both needles return to the front. Continue stitching downward, bringing the needle through the gap between the layers instead of the backside. Then continue stitching forward as usual. When you reach the point where the leather loop needs to be added, insert the leather loop before proceeding. After securing the leather loop, include the base material in your stitches. Leave the remaining hole for the final step and continue stitching forward. Continue stitching forward normally. At this point, where the bottom material has no pre-punched holes, pass the needle through the gap between the two layers. Then continue stitching forward as usual. When you reach this point, add the bottom material and stitch it together. If the piece looks raised when laid flat, don't worry. Once the bag takes its curved shape, it will fit perfectly. Continue stitching toward the center, just as before. Bring the needle out through the gap between the two layers. Then continue stitching forward. Stop here and insert the leather loop. Make sure the leather loop's joint is facing down. Continue stitching and sew the central hole. Then proceed forward. When you reach the third to last hole, add the buckle, just as you did before. Continue stitching forward. These holes may be a bit harder to stitch because the material is thicker. Take your time and enjoy the sewing process. Continue stitching forward. At this point, pass the needle between the two layers again. Just like before, when you reach a hole in the bottom material, stitch it together with the bottom. If there's no hole, you don't need to include the bottom material in your stitch. When you reach the final central hole, use both needles to stitch together. After sewing, secure the thread. Begin by sewing one additional stitch backward to reinforce. Then bring the threads to the back. Leave a 3 mm thread tail, cut it, and use a lighter to burn the end to secure the thread, slowed down to avoid blackening the thread end or burning the leather. Measure the thread to be 1 time the length of the sewn part, then thread the needles as usual. Ensure all materials face upward. Start from the first hole, bringing the needle from bottom to top. There are only 3 holes here, so stitch twice to reinforce the seam. Then pass the threads to the back. Secure the thread. Use the same method to stitch the other side. Stitch the other strap piece the same method. Check the result once both ends are done. Take these 3 pieces. Measure the thread to be 4 times the length of the sewn part, then thread the needles as usual. Continue sewing normally using the double needle stitching method, making sure not to catching the thread or skip any holes. After finishing, secure the thread the same method as before, but this time do not secure it at the very last hole. Take a look at how it looks after stitching. Sew the other 3 sides using the same method. Find these 2 pieces, measure the thread to be 8 times the length of the sewn part, and thread the needles as usual. Align the second hole of the side panel with the first hole of the zipper. Then continue stitching forward as usual. Now sew the 2 middle holes of the zipper. After that, continue stitching forward. Once you finish this section, secure the thread the same method as before. Check the stitched result, then repeat the same process on the other side. Ensure the side panel overlaps the zipper material to keep the zipper hidden inside. Take a look at how it looks after both sides are stitched. Find this panel piece, measure the thread to be 4 times the length of the sewn part, then thread the needles as usual. Locate the central hole, which is larger than the others. Begin the first stitch by passing the first needle through this hole. Then pass the needle through the corresponding hole on the front panel. Ensure both pieces are facing up with the front side showing. Once threaded, just keep stitching forward, either from left to right or right to left. When stitching this section, make sure the holes on both pieces align correctly. Then continue stitching forward as usual. Secure the thread the same method as before. At this spot, stitch 1 extra stitch forward for reinforcement, then secure the thread as usual. Check the finished result. Stitch the other side using the same method. Check the final stitching effect. Assemble all parts as shown in the video, adjusting the buckle length to your preference. Then, take the bottom studs and a screwdriver. Insert the screws from the inside out, place the bottom studs on the outside, and then tighten the 4 screws. Make sure to tighten firmly to prevent L. Attach the rubber caps onto the bottom studs. The bag is finished. Appreciate your choice of Babylon leather. Thank you for choosing us, wishing you the acquisition of valuable skills during your time here. If you've enjoyed our video, don't forget to like, comment, and share. For more information about this DIY leather kit, check out the link in the bio. Thanks for watching.